These images were generated by AI. The improvements that have been made recently around AI art generators have turned its images from janky and unrecognizable to detailed enough to fool even those familiar with AI. Anyone can now generate images that look like an artist created them. This development has of course led people to making claims like these.
Yeah, so if you are an artist, this has been a really bad week for you. And I want to promise you that it's going to get worse, okay? And I would focus on a career change. Yeah, exactly. And focus, like, go be a plumber or something like that, right? And nobody wants to talk about that because all they want to do is look good on Twitter. And it's sad because I'm trying to help artists.
There's a very vocal group of AI art supporters who post almost exclusively bad faith arguments in favor of using AI art and downplaying its concerns. If you've been paying attention to AI development, I'm sure you've seen arguments like these. Many of them insult artists, and many of them attempt to make fun of those that criticize AI art. This isn't a monolithic block of people all with one opinion. Instead, their arguments range anywhere from AI is just a tool all the way up to artists will be crushed into a fine paste. There is no shortage of people posting bad takes about AI art, especially on Twitter for some reason. Shad M. Brooks, or Shadiversity, is one of those people. He's a YouTuber that's gained his audience from historical overviews of weapons over the years. Recently, he's been extremely vocal about his support of AI art and has made multiple videos heavily defending it as well as constantly tweeting rage bait in favor of AI. These videos are filled with claims that I see a lot of the pro-AI art crowd make that are misguided, short-sighted, and sometimes even purposefully insulting. If you've ever tried to argue with an AI artist, you're very quickly going to find that one of their favorite positions to take is just accuse you of not knowing how AI works and then never really elaborating. So here's a very basic explanation as to how AI image generators work. There are different techniques AI image generators can use to create an image. Diffusion is what models like Stable Diffusion and VEO3 use, so I'll show you how diffusion works. In order to create an AI image generator, you need to feed a neural network a lot of images. If you want to make a text-to-image generator, you have to feed it text-image pairs. These are images that come with a description of what the image shows. Datasets like Lion 5B are designed to be trained off of and have text-image pairs available for AI training. In order to train a model with these text-image pairs, they will first add noise to each of the images. This is done in separate steps, with step 1 having the least noise and subsequent steps having more noise. The neural network is fed a noised image as well as how much noise it has and the text description of the image. The neural network will then attempt to denoise the image. It does this by guessing what the noise that was added looks like, and you can later subtract that from the noisy image to denoise it. The program will compare the model's predicted noise to the actual added noise, and it will make corrections to the neural network to try to lower the errors. The text description of the image is also given to the neural network, which will let it learn the associations between the text descriptions and their images. Once the model has gone through enough of these training steps, the predicted noise that the model creates will closely match the random added noise from the images it's fed. Eventually, the model will be able to denoise completely noisy images given only a text prompt. Now that you have a model that can effectively denoise complete noise from just a text prompt, and after feeding it thousands of images, you'll then be able to run the whole process with text it has never seen before. You can give it a prompt with anything you want, a rotisserie chicken riding a roller coaster, and it will create a completely noisy image. Give the neural network the noisy image, and it will tell the neural network, this is an image of a rotisserie chicken riding a roller coaster, but it's 100% noisy. Denoise this image. And based on the training data, the network will look at the prompt and attempt to create an image that would have been given that description. You don't have to generate images from just text either. Instead of feeding the neural network just a text prompt, you can give it an image as well. This gives you more control over what the AI generates than a text prompt, although one is still usually available. Here's the thing though, datasets like Lion 5B aren't compiled with people's permission. If you post your artwork to the internet, it will get trained off of and nobody will be compensated for it. The AI art crowd attempts to use a variety of excuses, from its fair use to the machine is just inspired like a human being, in order to justify these companies taking everyone else's artwork and profiting off of it for free. This brings me to Shadiversity's AI videos. We're gonna start with this one. I'm gonna start this out by saying that new technology that allows us to create better art is a good thing. I work in Blender as a 3D artist and I'm always looking out for new tools to help me create better art. New tools let artists create better art. AI is completely different. Although to an outside observer like Shad it looks identical, the fundamental difference that AI art generators are relying on work made exclusively by other artists ends up posing significant issues for his arguments. I also want to mention that I don't have an issue with people just simply playing around with AI image generation. I'm not going to crucify grandma because she wanted to see what her dog looks like as a human being. It only really becomes an issue when someone uses it to replace an artist that it was trained from. Unfortunately, he sees no issue with companies doing exactly this. So Shad does know how to draw to some degree. The average person probably wouldn't be able to have the skills to draw something like this if given a pencil and paper. He is capable of developing legitimate art skills. Many of his arguments end up relying on these artistic abilities and talents. He believes that he's getting the results that he is because of his own art skills, and he makes that point very clear throughout the entire video. You're going to notice that this claim directly clashes with how he's choosing to use AI. Instead of continuing to spend the time to grow his artistic abilities that he's proud of, he's now choosing to use that time to prompt a model trained off of others in order to finish his work. This video is an attempt at justifying his use of AI art. The video starts with Shad explaining that he drew characters in physical form on paper, but he mentioned something a little weird.
It was a great revelation to me later on in life. It wasn't actually the physical, mechanical movement of drawing that I was actually enjoying, but it was the creation of something. I never particularly enjoyed working with physical mediums, but discovering digital coloring fixed all the problems that I was finding with hand coloring myself, and enabled me to produce much higher quality art than I was able to do without it. Technology enabled me to produce much higher quality artworks, cutting out much of the tedious processes, and enabled me to express my artistic vision faster, easier, to a higher level of quality. So as you can imagine, any technology that grants this same benefit, I am very interested in, hence my interest in AI art generators. Many people view this new technology as something that robs people of their artistic pursuit and potential. What I see is the exact opposite. Indeed, far from robbing artistic expression, when you approach it with intent, having a specific vision in your mind that you want to achieve, it can enable you to bring that vision into a level of reality, detail, and beauty than you might ever have been able to do without it.
So this is the first example that he chose. I'm not sure why he used this as an example of AI making something look better. I'd much rather just look at the first one. The realistic AI one is more detailed, don't get me wrong, but that's all it has going for it. The details that the AI did put there don't even make sense. What's up with their hair? Is this supposed to be photorealistic like the face and the skirt, painterly like the armor, or hand-drawn like the sword? The one he made without AI is just better. It's in a consistent art style because all of the skills used to make the image are his.
I can't get enough. Back with another milk. Help! Help! Help me!
But when you combine other artistic talents and abilities that you cultivate in other mediums, that enables you to make the very best art with this technology. And I'm not kidding in this. I am an artist. I've developed a very keen eye for proportion and detail, and I have applied that in every artistic pursuit in whatever medium I'm using.
So the way he's using AI is to draw an incomplete image and then feed it into the model to get something that looks better. So this is just the how to draw an owl meme. This is a joke about glossing over important parts of the creative process. You can only get so far with the skills you have, and if you don't have the skills to draw the rest of the owl, well, that's what you're gonna be left with. When you rely on AI to draw the rest of the owl for you, what you're doing is you're relying on the artist who can finish it without AI. Anything you put into a machine trained off of their work will just end up looking like their work or a combination of those artists' works because that's how image generation forms images.
It's made by me using the tool of AI to achieve the specific vision that I have in my mind.
This is going to be the main claim that he sticks to when he defends his use of AI art. He makes the claim that anything he prompts is coming from his mind, just like an artist using tools, and so any art that comes out of it is his art. This right here is a good demonstration of the core of the problem that I'm going to be covering throughout the rest of this video. He's clearly proud of the art abilities that he did legitimately learn. He did obviously spend some time figuring out how to draw to this level. He clearly wants to create art, but now with the invention of AI, instead of continuing to put that time into developing his own skills, he believes that he can successfully forego all of that learning by just having the right prompts, and that should give him the same level of respect as a real artist. He wants us to think that this is his art because he chose the prompt. By the way, if you ever think I'm like being too hard on Shad, you have not seen his Twitter. He tweets like if you ask ChatGPT to roleplay as an insecure 13-year-old. For someone that claims to be such a good writer, which he also does, you would think he'd be able to come up with something a little bit more creative to say than this. He says this word a lot. I bet he thinks it makes him look cooler or like a rebel or something. He's 39 years old, by the way. This is embarrassing.
First, you need to refine the prompt, and finding the prompt that works best is a process that can take thousands of different tries. Experienced people with these programs know how to tweak the prompt as they generate images, guiding it by altering the prompts to get the results you want.
This is another common argument people make in favor of AI art that just doesn't make a lot of sense. What useful transferable art skills will someone have gained after a month of prompting? Are you really improving your art skills by tweaking prompts for an hour? Or do you think that time might be better served, I don't know, learning a Blender tutorial? He's interested in making good-looking images, but he isn't interested in learning how to actually do it. When you say you made this art, people expect you to have a creative process that you put actual thought into. Artists that don't need to use AI have this creative process and are able to create their own original styles by making technical decisions non-artists won't even be thinking about. They have the prerequisite knowledge to be able to make those decisions, and they actually think about the purpose of every single detail that's shown to us. Any decision they make about a piece of art is informed by their actual technical knowledge about their own abilities to create art. This lets them experiment and create their own styles rather than relying entirely on copying other people's styles. When you use AI to skip over large parts of the creative process and claim it's better because it cuts you out of the process, Shad. That's the problem. You can have the most descriptive and creative prompt ever, but when you put it into a machine trained from other people's art, you aren't the artist anymore. You may be an art director, someone who tells an artist what to make, but you aren't the artist. I do not see using AI in this way as making your art better. I see it as an admission that he doesn't have the skills he needs in order to properly express his creative vision. This leaves him reliant on the art skills of those who can.
So I start generating a couple of images, and yes, some look good, but they don't have what I'm after. And then I generated this image, and at first I was ready to move on, but I paused because there was something that I saw in this image that I had to go back to, and this is where applying artistic talent is really important. You might not see what I see in this image, but I see potential for a brilliant pose and composition here. It's not actually there, but I see the potential for it. This is hugely important, and it defines such a massive difference in someone who is able to apply an artistic eye to this process versus someone who doesn't have the experience or ability to do so, and they're just limited with the images that they're able to generate.
Yeah, I wonder who made that pose. He seems to have landed on an image he likes. He also brings up how he has the artistic eye to make better images than what the AI model can produce on its own. He's going to attempt to prove this point in this next section by doing manual edits to the image that he could have just asked the AI model to do if he had prompted it correctly.
And so with this image, I now have a vision of what I can achieve with it. But to achieve that, that's going to require me editing the image into a far stronger guide to what I want the final image to be. And so to do that, we're going to bring it into Photoshop, and we have the base foundation image of the one that I want to achieve. The vision I have in my mind has now been composed by hand in Photoshop. This is not the AI doing this. This is me making a hand composition based off an AI generated image, making many significant changes to achieve a far greater composition that the AI never would have made on its own.
You know, you can just ask the AI to make the changes you're making to it, right?
The primary selling point of AI is that it is cheap and easy. Now, some people might say that good AI art requires prompt engineering. Does it? I mean, check it out. With multimodal inputs, you can upload reference photos and files. And if something isn't turning out right, you could just ask why. Or better yet, get it to ask you clarifying questions. And once it generally understands your request, you could get it to generate a new prompt for you. That isn't prompt engineering. That's good communication.
I realized that there was one change that I forgot, and that's the kind of metal stockings that she has on her legs. No, I don't want that. So I'm going to paint over this with a basic skin texture, and notice that I'm adding simple shading to it. Yet even this simple shading does require a knowledge of basic shading principles. And so the previous experience I have in digital coloring is being used to a very significant degree here. Without that, it would have been much harder for the AI to redo the legs in a better, more realistic look, and to have had removed those metal kind of stockings.
So the reason he's painting out the stockings like this is to tell the AI model to take it off in the next generation. I'm not sure why he thinks this was necessary, considering any sufficiently advanced model is able to do that on its own if you just ask it. Painting it like this is just giving the model more information to generate from than a simple text prompt. He's still gonna rely on AI to make it actually look good. Any time he spent finding prompts and fixing errors from the AI is time he could have spent actually improving the art skills that all of his arguments are relying on.
And to say the final image that we're going to get out of this foundation was just made by the AI is completely false and disingenuous. We have a great composition with dynamic lighting, a good pose, and it's been the combination of using the strengths of the Rev animated model and my own artistic eye and digital illustration ability to achieve it.
It's really important to him that you think the AI model isn't making the image. He is. He claims that this is his image because of his artistic eye and the edits he made to the image. Let's quantify what art skills he needed in order to make this. Very basic Photoshop edits, and that's it. The AI model made the rest. It made pretty much the entire image, and now he's claiming that this is his art because he used his art skills to fix it, when that part was completely unnecessary and he could have just asked the AI model to fix it for him. Using Photoshop to pan out different parts of an image he wants an AI model to change doesn't make him the artist, it's just a way to prompt AI with more information than only text. It's a shortcut and there's a cost to using it. The cost is your own creative agency, and that will come across in the images you create and how people feel about your work. An unintentional side effect of all of this is it starts reflecting in the comments of the actual artists that we're trained off of. Actual legitimate artists and painters are right now being confidently accused of using AI to generate their entire work. This is not uncommon. Do you know how I know this? Because I get these comments on my own work too. Well, if artists are getting accusations of using AI, why don't they just show that guy how do they make it? Okay, I have a high quality video showing exactly how I make my Backrooms videos, titled How Backrooms Videos Are Made. I left a comment in reply telling him, you should watch this video. It shows you exactly how I make my Backrooms videos. No AI was used. After I showed him this, he of course apologized to me and then...
Bruh, it's obvious that this is, and I've watched a lot of videos about backdrops. And I work in Blender myself.
You should look at the light bulbs, they're chaotic. Yeah, that would be a great point if there weren't literally a section in the video that specifically goes over that and links to a tutorial on how to do it. They're randomly selected inside of the program. You probably should have watched the video before you made this comment.
My brother works at King AI.
I think he means Kling.
And I can understand that for sure this is a neural network. I'm not accusing you of anything.
Yes, you are.
I'm just telling you the way it is. You probably uploaded photos to IE and made the AI make a video of it.
Teacher always handed you your test back face down, didn't they? You don't even need to search for the video. I set it as the channel trailer. You click on my channel and it starts playing automatically. You have no excuse. People like this guy are everywhere. If they accuse you of using AI, they'll fight you to the death over it, regardless of the fact of whether it actually even is.
And what I've done right here, knowing how to work the settings to get the results you want, is something that only comes with experience and practice. It is literally a skill that you develop using this new tool.
You know what only comes with experience and practice? Learning how to paint something like that. You're unintentionally devaluing the skills of the most talented artists in the world because you're telling them, why should I practice to get to your level when I can instead train an AI off of your work and then pretend like that's inspiration? I can then parade myself around for being so artistically skilled from generating things from your work. He's just wearing a TF2 spy mask of a real artist.
And so I have 3 base images that I'm going to work with, and I'm going to grab some of the best elements of each. It's done the foot really, really well in this image, but only the left foot. So I'm going to grab that, and then I'm going to change that into a right foot and add it to the image. Again, the ability to do this requires knowledge of anatomy and proportion. Because I know how to draw feet, I also know how to change and warp this one so it will match a right foot in the image.
Are you telling us it takes knowledge of anatomy and proportion to know that's where a right foot goes? Because that's her left foot. He keeps mentioning how it was necessary to have knowledge of proportion to fix the error on the other foot when there was nothing stopping him from just putting it back in the model and having that fix it for him. If he's fine with an AI model making this much of the image, then what's stopping him from just having it do the rest? Is it really necessary to have any knowledge of how art is made at all when you can just ask the AI model to fix those errors for you?
And we finally have a much better image, which is the direct result of very intentional action taken by myself. This wasn't the AI pushing for these results, that was me, as if I had a digital brush remaking the image.
Okay. He clearly thinks of himself as the person who created the image, and the AI model is just a tool like a brush, and so that should make him the artist. The problem with this being that the model was trained from other artists' work specifically so that he doesn't have to learn anything to get something that looks just as detailed as their work. He wants you to think that he has the skills to do this while at the same time heavily relying on the skills of others.
And here we can see the process which we just undertook. There are some image stages that are not appearing because I didn't save them at that stage, but you can still see the overall process, which took me 2.5 hours from start to finish. A lot more time, work, effort, and skill needed than just a click. I can't see how anyone who've watched this entire process could then assume that the AI is just doing all the work, and that there is no human artistic vision or input or talent needed. People who say such things honestly do not know what they are talking about. They are statements from profound ignorance when it comes to this technology.
So apparently it took him 2.5 hours to make this. This is another one of his favorite talking points. He likes to bring up how much time it took him to generate something he wanted. He's trying to convince you that since he spent a long time to get to an image that he wanted, that also means that it must have taken a lot of skill and effort as well, just like a real artist. This argument doesn't really make a lot of sense when he's relying on AI this heavily. Like, what exactly is he spending that time doing? It looks to me like he used a prompt to generate something that was kind of close to what he wanted, and then, for some reason, used manual tools to try to do basic fixes that he could have just asked the AI model to do if he had actually prompted it correctly. He isn't learning how to make art, he's learning how to do basic fixes in Photoshop.
And deeply insulting to me as an artist who has just made something of deep artistic expression.
Do you know what's deeply insulting to all artists? Someone that trains off of our work with AI, prompts anything, and then pretends like now they're the talented artist with all the skills. He thinks that this should earn him the same level of respect as a real artist.
The claim that AI art is in no way art at all is a statement of profound ignorance and elitism. And people can believe that. I just know it's not true, because I know I continually experience deep artistic satisfaction from the things I am able to create with these incredible tools.
You might get satisfaction from generating things from AI, but as an artist, that is a nightmare that I am genuinely afraid of. Using my abilities just to fix up AI-generated slop and pass it off as my own. I could not imagine a less creatively satisfying and more demeaning role for a creative position than that. You are turning what should be a job where innovation can shine and actual original artist can be heard into one that sounds like all the worst parts of assembly line and cubicle work combined.
Because look at this final image. How could anyone say that it is made by AI, when it is literally impossible for the AI to have made it? You saw how much human input was involved to create this image, this piece of art. I hope everyone who's watched this video now knows that no, this is a piece of art made by me, made by a human, using tools in combination with other artistic tools like Photoshop and my own artistic ability. It is still human-made art, just assisted with AI technology.
This is looking a hell of a lot more like human-assisted AI art than it is AI-assisted human art. Having the AI make the art and the human fix the errors are the exact opposite roles those two should have. You're telling new artists that their work isn't good enough and they should just steal more talented artists' work instead. Don't learn how to actually use the software real artists use, don't learn how to make actually innovative decisions, and don't learn how to make images actually look good. Just vibe it out from other people that know how to do that instead. Any skills an actual artist spends time to learn will be sucked up and trained off of, and goobers like this guy will congratulate himself for how talented of an artist he is for generating slop from it. I'm not the only one with this opinion, of course. Shad's video got a lot of replies since its release.
So let's start with the tweet he uploaded before he posted the video. He says, "My skills are increasing. Making a video as we speak showing my process and how I get these results. The level of artistry needed, the technical knowledge required, and the amount of work involved I think is going to shock people." Well, let me tell you, I'm not shocked because I watched this video and it's exactly what I expected. So he says in the left image, my AI assisted art skill 6 months ago, and on the right he says my AI assisted art skill now. Is the one on the right really that much better, or is it just a different lighting scenario and background? What you're seeing is not an update in his skill, you're seeing an update in the models he's using and the LoRa's he's found to use. This isn't some exponential growth in terms of his abilities. You take these models away and he could not do these things. And he also misspelled assisted, so you know he's not a details guy, and there are 2 suns in this image. There's 2 major light sources coming from the front and one from the back, and I'm supposed to believe that this is skilled art. Because that's his whole angle here, to show how talented he is and how much work this is, as if you couldn't get very similar results with little effort while literally taking a dump. The whole selling point of AI is democratization. Everyone can do amazing things with low effort, right? So why are the high effort images virtually indistinguishable from the low effort ones? Finding ways to dump ridiculous amounts of time into an AI slot machine isn't talent or skill, it's little more than just patience and a desire to keep pulling that lever for one more hit. At least with the original, I can see choices being made and intent. It shows me someone really trying to do something cool. The AI version looks worse, not better.
This isn't the only video Shad's made in defense of AI. This next one's even worse because he strongly makes the case that AI companies should be allowed to train off of everyone else's art for free.
But what about if the tool was made through an unethical way, which is the bigger kind of discussion, that the AI programs are trained off of copyrighted images and also images made by artists who did not consent to their artwork being used in the AI. So let's address that topic. The first thing we need to understand about the whole consent argument is that ultimately it does lead nowhere, because the people making the AI programs actually shown and said that they're able to make the AIs to work off of images in the public domain.
He's right about this. There are models that are trained off of completely public domain images. So then why does nobody use those models? All of the popular models being pushed by big tech companies are trained off of everyone's work, not just the public domain. There's a reason for that.
Okay, as I was just talking about, is that if you have presented an image, an artwork that you've made yourself, to be seen by the public, okay, that alone establishes many fair use allowances of the art and precedents that people have done with art for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Case in point, have a look at this image. You might recognize the artist. It's by Van Gogh. Many people who see this image just think it as a Van Gogh image, but have a look at this one. Looks somewhat similar, wouldn't you say? It is the Sower by Millet. Millet, don't know how to pronounce it. And Van Gogh copied the original artwork. I think the understanding is that was a technical piece for him to just try and, improve his own work. Artists have been copying other artists for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's just one example amongst millions upon millions, okay? And even in a modern sense, Van Gogh's interpretation of this art piece would be absolutely allowed under the conditions of fair use, because there is enough transformation in the piece. It's not a direct duplication, okay? It's not passing it off as the original that Millet made. Sorry that I can't pronounce that. But artists have been imitating other artists from the beginning, and one of the main ways is to improve their own skill sets, all right?
So this is one of the strongest points I'll be making, but there's one key difference that makes AI art significantly less ethical than just learning how to do it yourself. The key difference being Van Gogh did not use this image to try to undercut Millet's artwork. Right now, companies are debating whether they should just hire artists or instead prompt images trained off of their work but for free and not have to reward the actual artist for their effort. Why be forced to reward someone for their skills when you can instead train off the work they've already done but for free? Van Gogh had to go through the same process as the original artist, but using his technical knowledge of art. This difference in technical knowledge and ability between the two artists is clearly visible in the art that they make. Van Gogh did not simply copy the decisions of Millet. He actually thought about every detail and how to use his technical abilities to be able to achieve it. That's how he was able to develop his own unique style that's recognized all over the globe. These AI companies put in no effort to actually create the art. They don't practice and they can't get better at art. The artist was the one who puts in thousands of hours and sometimes tens of thousands of dollars to be able to make the work. AI companies, on the other hand, can only get more accurate at training off the artist for free. AI companies are right now scraping art that artists had sacrificed parts of their own personal lives to be able to create. All of that sacrifice and effort just for all of its benefits to end up in the hands of AI companies who then use it to steal the opportunities from artists that they earned and spit in their face the entire time about it. Van Gogh's image looks different because he put his own ideas in there, and he didn't just rely entirely on the work of other people. He clearly has the technical capabilities to do it himself. That's how you develop an original style, not by prompting it from others. You are equating an artist practicing their technical skills to make an image in their own style to a machine that fundamentally works by sucking up other people's work. Any image AI makes will be unique, but nothing will be new. Every single idea and technique that AI can generate fundamentally has to already exist somewhere in its training data. It can only make things look like images that it has seen before. That's not how you develop an original style. I legitimately cannot tell one AI artist's style from the other because they don't have one.
This is a standard understood thing with artistic practice, and I see a direct equivalence with people using AI to do the same. And that's the thing, because people will assume it's AI doing this, all right? And that the difference is, it's okay when a human does it, but when an AI does it, that's unethical for reasons that do not convince me, because this is the thing. Say I wanted to make a reinterpretation of the original Soa painting in a new artistic style.
How is Shad going to make a painting in a new style? Is he going to A. Learn art?
Nah.
B. Learn art?
Nah.
C. Learn art? Or D. Plagiarize from
They're
other
just finalists to lock it in.
And the medium or tool I wanted to use was AI instead of, say, Photoshop. And my intent was to copy this art in a new way. There's actually no true significant difference there, only the tool that I'm using. It's still a person choosing to do the thing that they have chosen to do, like artists have chosen to do, for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Shad, believe it or not, there is a significant difference between learning how to do art yourself and just prompting from a machine made from the artists that already have. He isn't doing anything anyone else can't already do with an AI image generator. That's because he doesn't have to use any real art skills at all in order to generate something or fix it. The purpose of artists practicing off of others is to improve their own skills. The purpose of training off of someone's work with AI is precisely so you don't have to learn their skills.
If you want to see an even more direct and modern example of artists copying other artists, just type in Vincent van Gogh Starry Starry Night on DeviantArt to see how many artists have been copying Vincent van Gogh. And this is not a bad thing in any measure. In actual fact, it's a wonderful thing. People trying to learn someone else's style to complement their own in the hopes of adopting some or even all of the elements of this style to be used in their own future unique artworks.
He's making the comparison that prompting an AI model trained from other people's work is the same thing as developing his own skills. Prompting AI is not a skill. Even if it was, it certainly wouldn't be a very valuable one. Especially not when his prompts are entirely reliant on the people that actually do have the artistic skills he's trying to convince you he has.
A person should still have the right, especially under fair use practice and everything, to learn from other people's artworks, to imitate it, to try and develop the same styles and things. And then what if the person wants to do that and just use AI to achieve it?
Why would they want the AI to achieve it, Chad? The entire purpose of using AI in this way is to avoid learning the traditional art skills that it was trained from. It's a heck of a lot easier to use an AI model trained from painters than it is to learn how to be a painter.
It's the person doing it, and so in hypothetically restricting the AI's right, you're actually taking away rights of individuals and people and aspiring artists that want to use this tool to develop artworks that they envision.
Us not wanting for-profit companies to steal our work for free and make a profit from it is actually oppressing the humble, struggling AI artist. He's telling people that it's fine to take an artist's work for free and use it to undercut them out of their own job. He's telling people that there's money to be made in raiding the careers of more talented artists. Artists like Jazza, an art YouTuber I've been showcasing throughout this video. Here's something you might not know about these two. They're brothers!
Alrighty. My artistry is actually at a professional level.
And we'll give him like martial arts. You weren't like Olympic level martial arts.
This is proficiency. No, I'm not at that. I think artistry should be at 2 and we're at just 2.
You're going to need some context for this clip. They're filling out a roleplay card for Shad. They get to the part where they decide whether to give him 1 point for artistry or 2. Chaos ensues.
Okay, I think
this
we
is my
need to
honest
decide
opinion.
this. You can get to in writer.
Yeah, I'd agree with
published.
Thing is, no, I've had agents accept my work.
It's not the same.
No.
It's not, it isn't the same.
That is said with a huge amount of ignorance in regards to the publishing and writing industry.
I'm sure it is.
So,
I'm sure it is.
It is profoundly ignorant, that comment.
Right. But the thing is, we gave him 2 on artist because it's his full-time job.
This has become a really loaded episode.
I'm not saying
we're not
writing
even
is
going to get to
bad.
play.
I'm not saying your
We're
art
just
is
addressing each other.
It's good.
Easily
It's
at a
good.
professional standard.
Yes.
And people have commissioned me. It's just
Agreed.
I haven't chosen
But
to
can
use
I say
it.
this is
though, there
vocation.
are
This
a
is
lot
job.
of people who are at a professional standard who can't work as an artist.
Yeah, but we're talking about skill, not, wanting to work.
Yeah, I know,
at it.
but like,
Joss, you need to be very honest.
if you were to
about
get
my
to-
level
if I'm
as
going
an
to be
artist.
very honest, I love you. I'd say a point in artist.
Well, no, because then you should get a point first. We have our strengths and weaknesses, and you know what my strengths are in artistry, and I'm easily at a professional standard.
I would be willing to give you 2 points in writer.
But
put it that way.
Art easily is on 2 points. I'm at a professional standard, and you know that.
I'm respectfully
Your
disagree.
strengths are expression, easily
We
expression
don't
and
need to-
colour.
we don't need
But
this
my
to-
strengths are anatomy and character.
Absolutely, you're a skilled artist. That's good.
It's a point of reference.
How applicable is this to zombie apocalypse in fact? Whatever, have 2 points in each other. Alright. It's okay if someone needs to join the group and they need their...
No.
They will only be persuaded by an artist writer.
So you're just giving it to me to try and satisfy me?
Somewhat, because you won't stop arguing. So it's okay. Because it's actually not supposed to be you who decides the outcome, but you're not letting that happen. So... I'm just being honest.
My camera froze.
Your strengths are definitely in character expression, on facial expressions, and also in colouring and stuff like that. But the anatomy side of things, I think I do really well at.
Yeah, I
character
agree.
anatomy.
I guess in terms
of proportion specifically.
We don't need to sit on this. We really don't. We can talk about this on the drive home. It's not applicable. We should play a game. This is not entertaining.
How's your battery doing?
I'm sure people actually find it incredibly entertaining.
Leave your comments in the section. Oh my god, this is awkward.
Now, I would ask someone, which artist did it copy to be able to produce this? I mean, if you're looking at, it's not duplicating, but the main thing it copied were images of me, because I told it to, okay? This is me telling it to you, and then warping, molding kind of that reference into artistic styles that I'm asking it to be able to reference, and just like what real artists do.
The main thing it copied from were the painters who actually put their effort into the work the model was trained from. You're asking an AI to take other people's works and mold it into what it would have looked like if they worked on the image, all while taking credit for the entire thing as if you were the one that knows how to actually do that. Real artists take the time to learn the actual techniques themselves, not just lift it off others. Sometimes he even puts his own signature on it. This being despite the fact that he would not be able to do this without a model trained from other people. At the very least, I can give him credit for being upfront about the fact he made this with AI, which is a heck of a lot more transparency than I usually see coming from the AI art crowd.
One of the things I'm concerned about is a lot of people are saying, well, I'm an AI artist because I'm putting in the prompts. Again, intelligent people can disagree, but let me show you something. This right here is the beautiful art by Ben McSweeney of the axe hounds from the Stormlight Archive, right? Now, I came up with the idea for this artwork. I went to Ben and I said, I want it to look like this, X, Y, and Z. And he came back with some sketches and I said, change this, be better at this. And I pushed him pretty hard. It's one of the pieces that I specifically art directed myself. And at the end, we have that gorgeous piece from Shalon's sketchbook, these creatures from Roshar, the creatures I've come up with, but I pushed and Ben drew. I would never put my name as the artist on this piece of art. This is Ben McSweeney's art. He did the art. Now, I gave him the prompt, yes. I asked for it, I commissioned it, I pushed him on it, but it's his art.
If it's available to be seen by the public, there are legal precedents for people to, take inspiration from it, use it in certain ways, and yes, copy it in multiple different ways, legally allowed to copy it. Now, what is a copy? Because when you copy, you can copy something, just its composition, and change the coloring, change the artistic style, and everything like that. It's still a type of copying, but it's not a direct duplication. And there are actually very clear protections to be able to copy and use copyrighted images under fair use laws. I'll talk about those more in a second, but I think it's interesting that a lot of the outspoken critics of AI art brush over fair use, and they say that's not an area they're experienced in, so they can't comment on it. They comment a lot on areas in which they would assumedly be as equally inexperienced in. So yes, fair use has a very big role to play in regards to the ethics of how AI art learns art and produces art.
Fair use is one of the primary defenses AI artists bring up when defending the fact their models train off of other artists for free. Fair use does allow for the limited use of copyrighted works without permission of the artist. Fair use is incredibly important to allow people to be creative. Without fair use, I wouldn't be able to use parts of his video to actually show you what I'm trying to criticize. It also clears up any questions whether someone wants to, for example, make a piece of artwork that stylistically looks like another's. Artists tend to use a lot of the same techniques to create images, which sometimes ends up creating styles that look similar. You can't copyright styles because doing so would effectively censor actual artists that just happen to make art that looks like someone else's. What you can and can't use from other people's work is a gray area because of things like these. That's what fair use is for. It puts all these rules into words with the intent that it allows the most creative freedom for artists while actually protecting their work from theft at the same time. It is a balancing act. There are 4 separate sections to determine whether something is fair use. I'm going to bring up an abridged version straight from https://www.copyright.gov/fair-use/ that explains each of the parts. Fair use is a legal doctrine that promotes freedom of expression by permitting the unlicensed use of copyright-protected works in certain circumstances. Section 107 of the Copyright Act provides the statutory framework for determining whether something is fair use and identifies certain types of uses such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research as examples of activities that may qualify as fair use. Section 107 calls for the consideration of the following 4 factors in evaluating a question of fair use. What you're going to notice is that the laws around fair use are not written with an explicit "this is fair use" and "this isn't." Instead, they're written with a "these types of uses are more likely to be or less likely to be fair use." Courts evaluate fair use claims on a case-by-case basis, and the outcome of any given case depends on a fact-specific inquiry. This means that there is no formula to ensure that a predetermined percentage or amount of work, or specific number of words, lines, pages, copies, may be used without permission. There are 4 sections that describe what is likely to be fair use and what is not. It starts with Section 1, purpose and character of the use, including whether the use is of a commercial nature or is for non-profit educational purposes. Courts look at how the party claiming fair use is using the copyrighted work, and are more likely to find that non-profit educational and non-commercial uses are fair. This does not mean, however, that all non-profit education and non-commercial uses are fair and all commercial uses are not fair. Instead, courts will balance the purpose and character of the use against the other factors below. Additionally, transformative uses are more likely to be considered fair. Transformative uses are those that add something new with a further purpose or different character, and do not substitute for the original use of the work. Models like Midjourney are for profit. The commercial uses of their model means it's less likely to be fair use. This section also mentions that transformative uses are more likely to be considered fair use. AI is transformative. Models these days are specifically trained to not make things that are one-to-one in the training data. That's actually considered an error called overfitting. It also mentions, and this is the important part, that it should not substitute for the original use of the work. That comes into play when companies are using AI models trained off of an artist's work for free when they otherwise would have hired that artist. The second factor is the nature of the copyrighted work. This factor analyzes the degree to which the work that was used relates to the copyright's purpose of encouraging creative expression. Thus, using a more creative or imaginative work, such as a novel, movie, or song, is less likely to support a claim of fair use than using a factual work, such as a technical article or news item. In addition, use of an unpublished work is less likely to be considered fair. Using people's artwork is less likely to be considered fair use than if they were just reporting facts. This next section is the strongest defense of AI art. Amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. Under this factor, courts look at both the quantity and quality of the copyrighted material that was used. If the use includes a large portion of the copyrighted work, fair use is less likely to be found. If the use employs only a small amount of copyrighted material, fair use is more likely. That said, some courts have found use of an entire work to be fair under certain circumstances, and in other contexts, using even a small amount of a copyrighted work was determined not to be fair use because the selection was an important part, or the heart of the work. The most popular AI art models are trained off of billions of images made by tens of thousands of different artists. The neural network has to be trained off of a large amount of data to be able to build connections between the ideas inside of them. When someone prompts an image from an AI model, it references all of the images that it was trained off of when it begins generating images. The neural network usually only references a minuscule amount of data from a single artist. This isn't always the case. You can train a model off of just one artist's work, but the models most people use are made from images collected from all over the internet. There is a caveat for this one. When the model's training, it does look at the entire work, so this section isn't 100% in favor of AI companies, but it still does fall in their favor. That section was in the most favor of AI art. This next one, however, is by far in the least favor, and it's the most important one. Effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. Here, courts review whether and to what extent the unlicensed use harms the existing or future market for the copyright owner's original work. In assessing this factor, courts consider whether the use is hurting the current market for the original work, for example by displacing sales of the original, and or whether the use could cause substantial harm if it were to become widespread. When people are talking about replacing all artists with AI, this is what they're talking about. They're talking about replacing real people with a pirated version of their own professional work. The money that would have rightfully gone to a real artist instead gets diverted to an AI company that simply trained off their work for free, and for that reason can offer a rate so far below one of an artist it can't even be compared. If you own a company, why would you pay an expensive artist for their good-looking artwork when you can instead train off their work for free and pretend it's now entirely your work by prompting literally anything? This is what we mean when we say AI art is theft. We aren't saying that what AI generates is a direct rip-off copy of someone's art. What we're saying is that it's a direct rip-off copy of their expertise. Artists sacrifice significant parts of their own lives to be able to dedicate that to learning how to make the best possible art. They're having all of this personal sacrifice and hard work stolen from them for free by AI companies who are making money by closing off opportunities from those artists. AI companies are reaping all of the reward from the personal sacrifice of actual artists while paying absolutely nothing back to them. The AI boom has sparked several battles over the legality of AI companies training from everyone, many of which are currently ongoing. During the filming of this video, Anthropic and Meta won on a fair use defense for training their AI models on copyrighted books. Although it might seem at first glance that this settles it, when you actually look at the case in more detail, there are still many pending arguments to be made against AI. In this case, the authors, the plaintiffs, did not argue that the outputs of these AI models could potentially be infringing. The authors in this case only argued that Anthropic and Meta had pirated their books and used it to train their models. They fought against pirated content being used to train their AI models. Any potential outputs of those models were never part of the case. The last section of fair use, which is in regards to its outputs, is weighted significantly heavier than the other factors. Because the authors never argued that the AI model's outputs could hurt the market for the original books, the totality of all the factors of fair use together weighed in favor of the AI companies. This is not a ruling that all AI training is fair use. This is only a ruling that the authors did not present the evidence they needed in order to overcome a fair use defense. One of those pieces of evidence needs to show that AI outputs could harm the current market for those authors. Judge Chabria ruling over the Meta case mentioned as such. This ruling does not stand for the proposition that Meta's use of copyrighted materials to train its language models is lawful. It stands only for the proposition that these plaintiffs, the authors, made the wrong arguments and failed to develop a record in support of the right one. He also wrote, "No matter how transformative LLM training may be, it's hard to imagine that it can be fair use to use copyrighted books to develop a tool to make billions or trillions of dollars while enabling the creation of a potentially endless stream of competing works that could significantly harm the market for those books." This is not a blanket statement that all AI training is fair use. We are far from that. If this was a slam dunk case in either way, we wouldn't still be talking about it. The lawsuit Disney has currently against Midjourney is one that has significantly more relevance, as they are arguing against the outputs of those models. It would be incredibly difficult to have a human being look at an artist's works and actually be able to supplant that artist. You can do that with AI very easily. You can even specifically train an AI model to be able to replicate an artist's exact style without having to actually learn anything. Even if it's ruled 100% fair use, it would not suddenly make it more moral than it already is right now. It wouldn't mean people have to now respect you as an artist for generating things with AI. My main point here is that even if it's ruled either way, it wouldn't really matter. Even if it was a complete victory for artists, the best we could expect is a tiny payout and a small delay as other people just fill in the gap to train off of everyone else's work than an AI model someone built in a cave with a box of scraps. This is not a valid excuse for allowing AI companies to train off of everyone's work. I'm only mentioning this because I know he's going to bring it up and be really obnoxious about it. Right now, we're at the stage where artists are going to be measuring how much AI training off their work is affecting their ability to make money. It's too early for that, and these lawsuits take years, and so there wasn't much time for the outputs of the AI models to start interfering with the actual original works, which caused the case to only be about the inputs of the models and not its outputs, which ruled in favor of the AI companies because the authors never argued that AI-generated works could interfere with the originals. Going letter by the laws we have now is kind of like saying there are no rules that stop a dog from playing basketball. The laws were made by people who did not know this technology would happen. Laws are going to have to be written in place with this new technology on the field with the intent of what benefits society the most. Replacing all artists wholesale with AI does not benefit society for the sole reason that there will be no incentive to actually learn traditional art skills in order to keep innovation happening both with art in general and for the training data that's fed to these models. You still need professional artists to train off of in order to get good-looking results. That information doesn't just come from nowhere. People are going to find the best art and follow the people that can make it. If all of your creative abilities amount to prompting AI, you will be drowned out by the torrent of other people's AI-generated artwork flooding the market. AI's ease of use and instant outputs will be its main downfall. If all you do is prompt with AI, you will always be associated with spam content. Whatever prompt you think looks good, there are content farms out there prompting thousands of pieces a day that have been doing it for longer that probably look better that will drown you out of actually being discovered. There are always people looking for a get-rich-quick scheme, and this is just the next one. Right now, tens of thousands of people are jumping on the ad revenue gold rush train by posting AI-generated videos and art they didn't actually have to put any effort into creating. This will make it impossible to actually get noticed if all you can do is what they're already doing. Posting an AI-generated video will be like posting a bog-standard Minecraft Let's Play on YouTube and expecting people to be mesmerized by your boring gameplay every time. You need to actually have something special to offer people, and that requires spending the time to build skills, something that using AI will never give you.
It merges it with all these other references to create something new. Okay, I can merge J. Scott Campbell's style with Artgerm Stanley Liu's style, Lau, I think, and make something new, okay? It's me doing it using the tool, the AI, all right? I'm prompting it and choosing to do that because that is my right as an artist that all artists have done for hundreds of thousands of years. And here it is. This is my original sketch, okay? I drew this myself, a piece of art that I never would have made if I wasn't using AI art. AI art has reinvigorated my love and passion for creating art to the point where I'm actually drawing more now than I have in years, because I have this tool to make it even further, far beyond I would ever have the time or commitment to achieve myself, because art is a hobby, not a career. I like to draw to try and visualize things, but not draw for the sense of becoming the best I possibly could.
Well, that's a strange thing to say coming from someone that constantly feels the need to remind us how talented of an artist he is. He wants you to think his work is at the level of a professional artist, but he doesn't want to spend the effort to get his work to the level of a professional artist. It's fair to just want to draw as a hobby to see something cool. There's nothing wrong with that. What we have a problem with is the fact that prompting an AI model trained from other artists' work doesn't turn the prompter into the artist. No amount of prompting should allow the prompter to take credit for the art that comes out of the machine. Also, whatever these companies generate shouldn't be allowed to compete with the artist that they're training from without permission. Some of the money these AI companies are making would have otherwise rightfully gone to the people who were being trained off of for free. Artists train for years to create their works. Pieces of art with an extreme attention to detail. Pieces of art the artist had to sacrifice parts of their own personal lives to be able to create. These companies are taking that work for free and are now using parts of that work to flood the internet with competing work made with a fraction of the time and effort.
Have a look at the level, because people have seen the final result, the AI generated result, and have said that it copied other people's artwork, specifically Artgerm or Stanley Liu, because that was one of the references I did, or J. Scott Campbell, okay, that it was somehow copying their stuff to make this, when the primary thing it's copying that I'm telling it to copy is the original piece, to the point where the actual folds in the cloth are the same. Do you see the amount the folds match right down to the exact waves, all right? Like, the pose and composition is exactly the same. So it's baffling to me that people can accuse me of stealing Stanley Liu's art when, no, this is my art. I specifically made it to copy my art, and then to upgrade it, following certain styles, imitating certain styles to make something new.
He keeps telling us about how granular the control he has, but if he really wanted that level of control, he would learn how to draw this for himself. He keeps mentioning how good he is at proportion, so why is he suddenly not interested in learning how to get good at coloring? He's using a hammer that changes everything when he should be training to use a scalpel like everyone else. The entire purpose of this is to give up control to a machine trained off of an artist that actually knows what they're doing. If you could color this yourself like that, you would.
It's a combination of mostly my input with other artistic references, and not just Stanley Liu's and J. Scott Campbell's because I reference them, but hundreds of pieces of comic book art that it's learned from to be able to understand how to do hair in a comic book style, how to do faces in a comic book style to get this result.
The face doesn't even look remotely close to what he gave it. It's not even looking in the same direction. It made a completely new person. The majority of the piece has been changed from the original. How can he claim that this is his art? This is nothing like using Photoshop to make edits to an image. I'm not even going to talk about these.
And so now we've actually addressed the primary smoking gun evidences for AI stealing other art and being inherently unethical. And like I said, when I've looked into these specific claims in greater detail and also understanding how AI works, it's all founded on a misunderstanding and misinformation, and it's just not true. In most instances, there's not only legal precedent, but ethical precedent for the AI to be trained off of other people's art that's available to be seen, because just like you can take someone else's art, put it into Photoshop, and warp transform and do interesting creative things to it to make something new and that's transformed enough for it to be fair use, or to have a reference file, or to imitate certain poses in your own art, you can choose to do that with AI art like Stable Diffusion, just like I can choose to do it with Photoshop. It's direct precedent where you're allowed to use new technological tools to imitate, and to copy in certain ways and use them in commercial endeavors in a transformative way.
He really wants you to be okay with the concept of billion-dollar companies profiting from everyone else's work for free. He's like a reverse Robin Hood. He really hammers down on the sections of fair use like transformation while just completely glossing over the ones that are actual problems for AI art generators. His perfect world is to just allow AI companies to freely profit from the personal sacrifice of everyone else. Where's the incentive to actually learn anything anymore? I grew up with the belief that if someone puts a lot of effort into learning skills that benefit society, they should be rewarded for that. Why would someone spend time learning art skills when they can instead train a model off an actual artist, prompt anything, and outcompete the original artist using an infinite list of their own stolen skills? He didn't put in any of the work, but he still feels like he deserves all of the reward. Do you not see how totally one-sided this relationship is? This really highlights one of the most enraging beliefs I see going around in pro-AI circles. They actually believe that the artists, the people that they're training from, are suckers that are going to be left behind because of this new technology. They look at the stolen skills of an artist, then they turn around and tell that exact artist that society no longer needs them.
And I'll be more interested in discussing it with the more vocal critics of AI who've been spouting this type of stuff. And honestly, it's founded a lot on misinformation, okay? Just falsehoods, things that's not the reality of how this is. But one of the additional kind of talking points is that, which is, I think, ridiculous, honestly, is that the companies need to compensate artists to use their art to train the AI, as if in the same way like they're selling their art, a direct copy of their art, and therefore the original needs to be compensated. First of all, you don't need to compensate the original artist if your copy version is transformative and it's remade to be something new, different, or different enough. No compensation is needed in that. And most arts that, like, again, in the vast majority of cases, the art is very different to any one composition that you can find. And even the examples where they find it's like they've copied a composition, it's easily different enough to qualify for fair use.
It doesn't matter how transformative any of the results are. It could be the most transformative piece on Earth, but it would still fail the other conditions, which at this rate, it is likely to by a large margin. These AI companies are collecting money from software built exclusively from the money and effort ordinary people spent to make their art. These AI companies did not spend a dime to make the art. Let's be real here. AI companies are competing with the artists they're training from. Companies are looking at the money it would take to hire an artist, and the money it would take to prompt a model trained from their work for free, and some of them are choosing the free method. The only reason that these AI companies can offer these results so cheap is because they offload all the sacrifice and work to people that they are now ripping off for free. It is absolutely in their power to pay the artist for the training data, but then that would mean they would have to raise the rates they're offering to people while not profiting from any of that. These are rules that were specifically designed to be vague in order to give artists the most creative freedom. Companies are taking advantage of this in order to push up right against the line of what could be considered legal and taking all of that money that would have otherwise gone to those artists to support their craft. Every single argument he makes is in support of these billion-dollar AI companies and in complete ignorance of the lost opportunities of the artists that the models were trained from. Companies are using this technology to, instead of rewarding someone for their skills, steal it from them for free. AI-generated advertisements are showing up all over the place. Do you know why that is? It's sure as hell not because it looks better than a real artist. It's because it's cheaper. AI companies can charge a fraction of the price that it would have otherwise taken to use the artist's work. Do you know why they're able to do that? Because they put no effort in to actually make it. They didn't need to build any skills. They didn't need to learn the rules of art. They just stole it from the people who sacrificed parts of their own personal lives to be able to do that. Why not just steal everything from actual talented people and pretend you made it? Why not just ignore learning skills when you can fill it in with other people's stolen skills instead? Just train off someone else's work for free, do the lowest quality changes, and post it. Make money from it. Sell it to other people for cheap and undercut the artist that would have otherwise been rightfully rewarded for their work. The excuse that someone can become an AI artist to combat this doesn't really matter all that much when the average person cannot tell the difference between an AI-generated post that took time to make and one that did not. The reward that would have gone to an artist for developing their skills instead gets diverted to a corporate company that stole their work and to goobers like this guy who suddenly don't really feel like learning any skills anymore. They can just prompt it from real artists and take all the credit for that instead. He tells them it's fine that companies are stealing from them for free and competing against them, and that they should just get over it because it's fair use, even though there is a very much solid case that it is not.
Because, yeah, AI should be able to be used to make money. Okay, I've got some great examples where I'm using AI art to benefit myself in a commercial way, which is brilliant. Okay, it's opened up access and ability to higher quality art for and will for an infinite anyone who has access to this technology is able to do that, which is one of the greater benefits that I don't see critics acknowledging well enough, okay?
It's opened up access and ability for people who don't really feel like putting any effort into learning anything. I'm noticing that the only thing he uses AI art for is to avoid learning the skills that he's relying on in order to generate these pieces. If you were actually interested in being an artist and making the highest quality art, you would learn these techniques yourself. You wouldn't rely on software to suck up all the work from everyone else.
They focus on the fact that it will take people's jobs. One, ignoring the fact that it'll create a new industry with new jobs, and the people who'll be able to, get those occupations will be the artists who choose to embrace AI and use it for their benefit to enhance their art beyond their own ability.
This is truly one of the most baffling things he believes. With other revolutions like robotics, we were always given the excuse that it will create jobs for other people, like for those maintaining the machines. This is one of the first technological revolutions where that's very obviously not going to happen. AI companies absolutely will not be opening as many job opportunities as they will be taking. Why would anyone hire an AI artist when these models are already capable of doing the corrections that he thinks someone would need to hire an AI artist for? Let's quantify this. What part of this does Shad think he deserves to be paid for? The basic Photoshop edits? AI models can do that for free already. His prompting skills? AI models can do that too. His artistic eye? I can guarantee you that he isn't developing one beyond what he has now by relying on AI this heavily. How valuable is a prompt engineer when anyone can be one with a 10-minute YouTube tutorial? Nobody is looking at AI art in hopes of spending more money on artists. I cannot believe I have to spell this out for him, but apparently I do. Companies are looking at AI so they can train off of artists for free in order to have the same level of work without having to pay those people. That is the purpose of AI art. That's the problem we have with it. By making the statement that the average person will be making more money by being an AI artist, he is literally missing the entire point of AI. Like, seriously, why would anyone hire an AI artist? If someone's already fine with using AI, they just prompt some things themselves until they're happy with the result. Any sufficiently advanced AI model will be able to get something close enough to what the prompter wants in order to not have to hire anyone. If they're choosing to pay someone for art, then they just commission an artist. Paying someone to generate AI art for you is quite literally the worst of both worlds. They're just wasting money on something that they could have generated themselves for free. Getting people to sit down and pay attention to your art is already hard. I don't know if you've noticed, but people tend to not respect AI art. They usually don't see it as a new thing to enjoy, they see it as a waste of their time. People want to filter out AI-generated content from their feeds. Paying to have AI-generated art made for you doesn't mean that people will want to look at it any more than anyone else's AI-generated art. And since it's so easy for anyone to generate art, it will get lost in the algorithmic flood of everyone else's. Nobody under any circumstance should ever pay real money for an AI-generated image. It's quite literally a valueless image. Anyone that spends money on an AI-generated image, in my view, is a victim to a scammer. They could have just generated that thing themselves for free. Not only is Shad using other people's work as a replacement for developing his own, he's now attempting to justify selling that work and outcompeting those very artists using a fraction of the time, effort, or skill otherwise required. That lets him offer a much lower price than an actual artist. What he's doing is he's undercutting the very artist he's trained from by not having made the personal sacrifices to learn art himself. This is not a sustainable market for artists, especially when those models are trained from their work without permission. It's a great one for the AI companies though. They get to offload all the personal sacrifice of having to learn art off to other people all while collecting all the money from their effort and leaving the artist with no market. All of that money will just so happen to end up in the hands of billion-dollar AI corporations.
I'm doing that already and I've been seeing benefits. I am an artist. Am I a great artist? I'll leave other people to decide that. I think I'm middling at best, but I am most certainly a more professional standard writer, and I'm very excited and interested to use AI text generating programs to improve the quality of my writing. Yeah, absolutely. If it can produce a better result to my fans and customers, so to me, that's a win-win, and I don't lose a job because I'm using it to benefit.
Hey, I have a question. If there's a better way to write something, why don't you write it that way? By relying on ChatGPT to do parts of the writing for you, you forego learning what makes parts of writing good. I don't want to hear what ChatGPT says about something. I want to hear the writer.
An interesting point that I think a lot of artists maybe perhaps either don't acknowledge, realize, and might not be the same for everyone, but they don't actually enjoy the act of drawing, painting, or illustrating. Otherwise, why aren't they doing nothing but drawing straight lines on a paper? Or why don't they love painting the walls of a house as much as when they paint something? What they actually love, and this is what I discovered for myself, it's the act of creation that I love.
Right. So this is one of the most insane takes I hear from them, and that's saying something. I'm sorry. Do you think if someone actually likes to draw that they'll have fun drawing straight lines all day? People like drawing because they get to use the skills they've gained. This is the fundamental disconnect between AI artists and real ones. Real artists actually spend the time to learn their craft to be able to create the things that they can. I'm not just talking about 10 minutes on a YouTube tutorial, I'm talking about people who spent tens of thousands of hours honing their craft to be the best artist that they can. Do you really think someone could do that if they didn't fundamentally enjoy some part of that process? It took Da Vinci 4 years to paint the Mona Lisa. I don't think anything communicates to me more that you don't actually care about learning anything about creating art. You aren't even interested in that. AI artists are so concerned with getting a final product now that they don't even think about the techniques with which these images are actually constructed. They think they do, but they're just prompting based off nothing but vibes and how the last image they happen to randomly generate looks, shuffling other people's ideas and techniques around with no concept of how the underlying art is actually made for real. I agree that real artists will be able to make the best art, but not because they'll be able to make the best AI art. It's because that's who the model was trained from.
People are still going to draw with pencils, they're still going to paint with brushes because they enjoy it, okay? The satisfaction of doing something with tools that are more difficult, okay, still there. People like to do things that are difficult for the satisfaction and achievement of doing it. That will always exist.
Yeah, it's a heck of a lot harder to learn how to make good art than it is to just steal from the people that have.
The professional world and those who are producing artwork in a professional capacity for money and stuff like that, yeah, people using AI will be outcompeting a lot of people, okay? And so there will be jobs lost, but you could have been the ones to get those new jobs because you can produce the best quality AI art if you have artistic talent.
People using AI will be outcompeting a lot of people because they're freely stealing art from more talented artists. How do you not see this? The reason someone would use AI art in this way is because they don't have the artistic talents and they aren't interested in learning them. Jobs will be lost because why hire someone with skills when you can just train off of their work for free and pretend like that's the same thing as inspiration?
It happens more than you might think, where people say, how dare you promote AI art? Again, it's founded on a place that I understand. They've been convinced by the fearmongers out there that are misrepresenting the facts that there is something inherently unethical and wrong about AI art, and that's inherently stealing other people's work. And that's the comments that happen, where even the videos that I've made, there's been a couple of commenters who say, I thought better of you, you're promoting artistic theft by using AI art and accusing me of being a bad person as a result. That is never going to get the results that people want. Well, like, people are just going to stop doing, it's going to make people who you accuse like that think that you're uninformed and also being uncharitable. Like, people who get accused of being wrong and evil for using AI to make new art and stuff like that in perfectly ethical ways, and they're accused of being doing something wrong, that sounds bigoted to them. And they're not going to look nicely on you, and it's just going to cause more divide.
The perfectly ethical ways to use AI art he's describing is just giving up learning the real techniques and undercutting the artist they're prompting from. I don't think you're evil because you like to play around with AI art. I think you're evil for other reasons, though.
There's been this, mindset that I've noticed, not necessarily just on the left, but also perpetuating the world, that it is wrong for you to hold opinions if they upset someone, if it offends someone, right? Because that means you're...
No, I don't think anyone says that. I think it's a misconstruing of what Tumblr logic is, where it's like saying, hey, if you're racist, that kind of sucks, actually. I don't, in theory, disagree with what he's saying. I mean, hey, the truth does hurt. Sometimes you do have to be cruel to be kind. And we should not judge, lest we ourselves be judged as well. But thankfully, since Shad judges all the time, is not kind, and is not nice, and is often wrong, I have no issue judging him in this situation.
For instance, if you believe that there are only two genders, that can deeply offend and upset someone. That is a cruel view to have. You're a nasty person for simply holding true to
science,
the opinions of biology.
Well, actually, biologically speaking, there are many people who have different genders aside from the XXXY chromosomes. There are people with 3 chromosomes. There are people who are intersex. That is a physical thing. Intersex is physical. It's not a trans identity. It is a physical trait of the human body. So you want to talk biology, we can do that, but I don't think you really want to because you don't really understand the topic yourself all that much.
And they get deeply offended, and then they will judge you as being a nasty person for merely holding an opinion like that, when you don't mean anything malicious by it. That's literally a truth that you believe. And then...
Well, Shad, let me ask you a question. It's not so much if you believe it or not, it's why you'd bring it up at all. You know? Like, I don't care what you think about that, personally. I have my beliefs, you have yours. I don't care what you think because I don't really value your opinion all that much outside of entertainment value on this channel. I wouldn't be watching this stream of yours unless it was for the audience to hear my thoughts on it.
They can lose their mind. And there are multiple examples about this.
Multiple examples.
What your stance is on homosexual marriage, and then to climate change, to any number of like these vaccines.
Yeah, but the problem there is that those opinions actually affect others. If you don't believe in marriage equality and push to remove the equality of others to get married, then you're hurting someone else, aren't you? If you don't vaccinate yourself and you then become a carrier for a disease that can affect someone who's immunocompromised who can't get vaccinated for one reason or another, you're putting that person's life in danger. If you do not believe in, say, any number of things that could have ramifications that hurt other people, like climate change, and you decide to push for something like, say, AI, which has a massive environmental cost, you're going to hurt people. And yeah, they are going to get pissed at you. Because you suck.
I think he just sees a tool to make good-looking images, and it's as simple as that to him. He just shouldn't be calling himself an artist of the same caliber as those the model was trained from. Artists specifically specialize in learning how to make good-looking images. Prompting images with AI won't teach you how to make good-looking images. It will just teach you how to lift it off others. I think the AI companies are evil for stealing work from artists and then using their work to steal their opportunities away from them. I think the people posting AI-generated cartoons pushing bad faith arguments are childish. I just think you're a goober.
The people who are the spokesmen pushing out against it, when you actually look into the facts of the matter, they're founded on complete untruth. All right, it doesn't inherently steal. It doesn't copy. Taking things. I've already made a whole video on that. Right, so I don't blame people for thinking it's unethical when they've been fed untruths about this, but the people who have been spreading these falsehoods, I think it's on them. They should have been doing far more research to find out if this is actually true or not. Speak to the developers, speak to people who use AI art to find out, and they say they've heard the arguments, and then they're like I said, I've found certain, spokespeople against AI art being somewhat disingenuous, using very emotionally manipulative language to try and get people to think that there is something inherently wrong with it, ignoring counter arguments, like, they're saying that I'm not informed enough to be able to comment on fair use, but suddenly I'm perfectly informed enough to comment on all these other things, and giving a very uncharitable interpretation of some things, skewing the proportion of other things to ultimately present a really negative picture that has convinced a lot of people. They're not going out thinking, I can't wait to steal people's art. They honestly believe it's perfect, like I do, that there's nothing unethical about using AI art generation programs, okay? They're not trying to ruin someone's day or destroy the artistic community.
I think you're just straight up ignoring how much damage this technology could cause to the art community. Let's say you're a company interested in purchasing some art for, say, advertising. Why would you purchase an artist's work or even hire anyone when you can instead give an AI company $20 and have access to every single artist's style and work without their permission? You can even have a model perfectly replicate a specific artist's style by training off their work. This isn't supporting creativity. This is supporting piracy.
That one, they don't really know how much work sometimes it takes to produce a really high-quality, professional, standard piece of work from AI art. They must be completely ignorant of that, because sometimes it takes hours of work and artistic input to be able to produce great results. I've shown some direct examples right here.
I see literally no purpose in spending more than 5 minutes AI generating something you want. If it takes you longer than that, I don't think you're suddenly an artist. I think you just don't know how to properly use your AI tools. The entire purpose of this is that it's instant and takes no skill. If you are interested in learning skills and spending time on art, do it the traditional way like everyone else. That means you have to learn the rules of art.
And so it's certainly not a simple click cheating, and if it is cheating, right, which it's not, but so photography is cheating. Like, is photography an art form? You're stealing, capturing an image of the real world and stolen in time forever for people to look at it. Like, there's equivalence that you can make that you're cheating essentially to capture that image so easily. And do we call photography a type of art form? Yes, of course we do, because it takes an artistic eye to find
the right angle, the right kind of lighting, figure out the best quality settings to get the best capturing photograph of that scene as possible. Of course, photography is an art, just like AI-generated art is an art. Because guess what? There are similar types of skills that you need to get the best quality results. You need to understand how to work with the tool, just like you need to understand the best settings. You need to understand the best settings for the AI programs. You need to understand how to prompt. And then you need the artistic eye, just like you need an artistic eye with a camera, okay? To see what the best lighting angle is, to see the elements of the AI generation that work. That's not going to regenerate that and fix it up. And all those things, okay? There are so many equivalencies you can actually make with AI-generated art and photography. And it's so disingenuous to try and claim art. This AI-generated art is cheating and it's fake and it's false and it requires an artistic input and everything like that. Bull crap, okay? People say that are very ignorant on the topic. And they're being very critical because I don't think those same people would say photography is an art form. Wouldn't say many other equivalent types of things is an art form either.
The good old AI is just like a camera argument. I knew this one was coming somewhere. This one's another favorite among AI artists. If AI artists were as good at creating art as they are at creating logical fallacies, I wouldn't be here talking about it. They make the claim that changing settings with their AI program is the same thing as a photographer changing settings on their camera to get the best shot. The problem with this argument, of course, is technical ability. You can tell when someone is a professional photographer versus someone who isn't. This isn't a rhetorical question. How do you tell the difference between a professional AI artist's work versus someone who is just messing around for a few minutes? Photographers don't just capture the first thing in front of them. They make a considerable amount of decisions about every single part of the image. These decisions are all informed by the photographer's unique perspective and technical abilities. The excuse that AI artists do the same thing by prompting the right way doesn't really make a lot of sense when you consider the fact that the option to learn how to make these things the traditional way is right there. The only thing stopping you from going down that path is your own willpower. Using AI to make your art for you is peak laziness. You don't feel like learning any of the rules of art. You are only interested in taking a shortcut made from those who already have. The difference between photographers and AI artists is that photography is original work. The photographer is learning how to make good art. The decisions they make come from the photographer's own skills. Anything AI generates will be limited to other photographers' or artists' skills. When you prompt a model trained from actual artists, you are no longer the one making the technical decisions about an image. They are. The artist that made this cartoon, why didn't they use AI to make it? It would have saved him a lot of time. Is it because then there would be absolutely nothing differentiating his post from the avalanche of AI-generated cartoons other people post? Do you see my point now?
The pushback, okay, this kind of fear-mongering is less founded on the true unethical, things of the AI art, because when you look into it, it's not nowhere near as unethical and it's not stealing and all that stuff, okay? It's not there. And so the truth of they might honestly believe it, but I get the impression that they're not looking to find the counter arguments to prove themselves wrong, because they're more threatened. They feel threatened by this, and as a result, their perspective gets skewed to only look for things to validate that feeling of being threatened. Therefore, let's fight it, let's oppose it, let's push back against it. They're not as inclined to see, hear, and then also acknowledge the counter arguments that contradict the things that they've been saying about it being inherently unethical and stealing and stuff like that.
Well, I'm here and I disagree with just about every single thing he said in this hour-and-a-half long video. He didn't cover some of the arguments I wanted to get to. That's apparently what his Twitter is for.
I can't wait till this stuff gets so popular and good that there's gonna be programs that let you add in keyframes for pictures like this, and it creates the in-between shots, making animation readily available for the average person.
Making animation readily available for the average person. Hey buddy, it already is. Nobody was gatekeeping art. Programs and tutorials to use them are free. Tell me exactly what part of this wasn't democratized already. You're acting like artists are gatekeeping how they make their art. This could not be further from the truth. There are thousands of tutorials that show you how to make good-looking art. That's how I learned Blender. You have all the tools you need to learn this right in front of you, but you aren't interested in doing any of that, are you? So I do have to ask, what part of this is democratized now that wasn't already before? The only thing you're democratizing is other people's skills, which you are now calling your own. One of the most baffling takes I see is the people who say AI art looks better than human-made art. That just doesn't make any sense considering the fact that AI has to first train off of those artists, and anything it generates will just look like some combination of those artists' skills. AI art will never be better than human-made art because it's designed to make things that look like human-made art. They don't even have any solid examples. Everything they show just looks like some derivative ripped-off version of some artist they didn't even know existed. Does he even know that there are people out there who paint these things perfectly fine without AI? His model trained off their work to generate stuff that looks like it, and then he turns around and uses that as an insult to those very artists. Him making the claim that AI art is better than human-made art when the models are trained off of and designed to make things that look like human-made art is just plain wrong. You cannot compare the level of detail your AI-generated piece has to one of an artist that actually had to think about those details. You didn't really have to think about much to make this. If the AI one is so much better, then why does nobody care about it? Another one of the arguments I see going around in pro-AI spaces is calling people who criticize AI art Luddites. If you don't already know, the Luddite movement started when skilled workers who made fabrics were being replaced by fabric-making machines that could do the same work but for much cheaper. The workers eventually revolted and destroyed the fabric machines. As we already know though, having the fabrics be made by machines allows it to be much cheaper and gives more people access to it. Society as a whole benefits from a few people losing their jobs to automation. The argument that's being made here is that artists are holding back society by having an issue with AI. That the future of art should be made by AI, and if anyone has a problem with that, they're just trying to hold back society's progress in order to save their own redundant jobs. I hope you can already see why this argument is not only wrong, but also pretty offensive. The primary difference between the Luddite movement and the anti-AI art push is the fact that AI companies are still using the skills that artists spent time and effort to develop. Those artists now just don't need to be compensated for it anymore. This is a tool that allows companies to replace artists with a stolen derivative version of their own work that someone didn't even need to spend any time on. You're stealing the expertise and personal sacrifice of artists and then turning around and then immediately calling those very artists irrelevant and self-centered for having a problem with this blatant theft. You're using their own skills to steal opportunities away from them. We just want to make sure we're not stolen from, and that's it. If companies like Midjourney were only using public domain images to train off of, we'd have absolutely no problem with that. They'd be allowed to do that. But there's a reason they don't. It's because it makes better art when it's trained off of everyone else's. People who use AI art freely admit that human beings make better art when that artist is properly trained and has the talents required. They say it's just too expensive to justify hiring them, and so that's why they'll use AI instead. A model that's just trained off of their work anyways. I want you to think about the eventual end result that this type of incentive structure will produce. Entire companies, even industries like advertising, choose to use AI in order to save a buck. In the short term, it's great for the companies. They get advertisements that look like real artists made them for a fraction of the price. Everyone else, because it makes financial sense, starts doing the same thing. Free art for everyone. Companies start posting AI advertisements. Content farms pop up posting AI videos every few minutes. You start seeing AI images on products in stores. Artists go out of a job because every industry of significance is pivoted to AI to save money. Because of this, no new art is made or posted by professionals. They all have to spend their time at a job that can support them that would have otherwise gone into getting better at art. No new training data enters the models that companies are using to generate from. Artists stop making art, which causes AI models to stop receiving new data. Any models that get made in the future will be trained off the same set of art from a time where artists could support themselves with their own work. Because AI images can be generated instantly, any trends that develop in art get immediately exploited with tens of thousands of images and videos a day. You start seeing AI generated videos on YouTube that for some reason have millions of views. They all look like they could have been uploaded by the same person.
Jesus Christ appears on Got Talent America. The world stopped in shock at his powerful message. This one's 30 minutes.
This isn't a recipe that benefits society. It does not benefit the people with the actual skills. It's one where talentless hacks try to steal money and opportunities that would have otherwise rightfully gone to those artists to continue practicing their actual skills. Instead of people seeing actual talent, they see someone who prompted a derivative version of something from an actual artist's work. The problem we have with AI art is that the reward for the work does not go to the people that deserve it. It is not distributed evenly with the amount of work each person puts into each image. All of the money is given to some talentless goober who thinks of himself as the artist. Why would anyone spend the time and effort to learn real art techniques when you can just steal from those that have and pretend that's somehow the same thing as inspiration? You're a middleman who's stealing the art from the community around you and are now pretending to be one of us. Pretending to be someone that puts thought into every detail like we do. Pretending that you know how to do this. Pretending that this is your art. Thankfully, most people can see through this. AI-generated videos are the entertainment equivalent of jingling keys in front of a baby. They will always be associated with the lowest quality content, on the same level as the farms that pump out baby sensory music videos. The only people that will benefit from an endless wave of lower quality, plagiarized, bot-created content will be soulless businessmen and side hustlers who see your intellectual property rights as nothing more than a roadblock in the way between them and a bunch of free money. They regularly spit in the face of the people their art machine is made from. There are thousands of videos showing you how you can make $1 bajillion by posting AI-generated slop regularly. These creators don't give a single damn about what they're posting. The only thing they care about is that it generates revenue for them. These are turds that have been polished by our own work without our consent. They aren't in it for the art. They're in it because it's a get-rich-quick scheme, and the viewer is the sucker being hosed for wasting their time with it and giving the AI channel revenue. Expecting people to just sit down after their long day of work and spend their very limited free time watching an infinitely generated list of AI-generated content built from our stolen work does not sound like a future we should want. That sounds like one we should actively fight against.
First and foremost, I believe AI art is not a craft, no matter how anyone might attempt to think about it or justify it. You can no more call yourself an artist if the work you're producing is built on the foundation of artificial intelligence than you could call yourself an artist of the skill level of someone whose work you are tracing. It is simply not your work or skill being used.
And this is kind of my worry with some of the AI things with writing and with art that's happening. Being an art director does not give you ownership over the piece. And in this case, no matter how good your prompt, no matter how much you refine, you aren't making the art. You are acting as an art director, perhaps. You are commissioning a piece of art, but the machine is making the art. And so that is why I have a bone to pick with that definition. I don't think you're an artist. I think you might be an art director to a machine.
If you take the magic Skinner box away from an AI artist, they're dead in the water. It's as simple as that. Shad could not do this without AI. He doesn't have the technical knowledge nor skill, but he wants you to know that it's not the AI doing the work, despite the fact that if Stable Diffusion disappeared tomorrow, he wouldn't be able to create at this caliber anymore. And he's also learned nothing about art outside the workings of the AI. No gained fundamentals, nothing. And again, you may ask, why do you care? Why does it matter? Let him have fun. Well, it matters because me and virtually every artist I know was stolen from to make this tech work. It's theft on an unprecedented scale and forces artists to quite literally compete with their own work, which the US Copyright Office and copyright law has thoughts on. Jobs are drying up. I'm seeing it in real time. There's AI artwork on art department walls, in pitch decks. I don't worry about a prompt engineer taking my job. They don't have the fundamentals or ability to fit into a pipeline. I worry about one artist doing the job of 10 and it being derivative crap on top of it. You may not support the writers in the WGA, you may not support actors in SAG-AFTRA, you may not support artists, but if we don't call this out for what it is, we're going to lose the very humanity in art. Originality is already hard to come by, and people want to offload all creativity to a few different companies instead of supporting real artists. That's not a world I want to live in.
It's the American way. You work hard, you play fair, you stay the course, and you'll make it. I truly believed that until my son asked ChatGPT to write a plot they read like a David Baldacci novel. In about 5 seconds, 3 pages came up that had elements of pretty much every book I'd ever written, including plot lines, twists, character names, narrative, the works. That's when I found out that the AI community had taken most of my novels without permission and fed them into their machine learning system. I truly felt like someone had backed up a truck to my imagination and stolen everything I'd ever created.
When I see people watch a bad movie, usually one of the first things they say out of the theater is, it felt like the script was written by AI. We view art, we experience art, we go out of our way to engage with art because we want something new. We don't want something recycled. We're going to keep doing that.
When I see an AI thumbnail on YouTube, my eyes glaze over and I go, oh, this person doesn't care about what they're making. If I just AI generated my thumbnails, that is a huge message from me to you that I don't care about the content that I'm making, that I don't care about the videos that you're watching, that I'm just trying to create slop.
Like, you are specifically and intentionally not learning anything, right? You are prompting, rearranging questions until you get an output you desire, but you have no idea how that was done. You are spending all of this time not training for the field you've chosen. You are not learning anything. You are not improving your skills. You're basically doing what anyone could do with an LLM, which seems bad for like your career prospects and how you plan to go through the world. Like, you are specifically and intentionally refusing to learn anything, which just seems like a problem. So I think an overlooked component of AI discourse is how little respect AI enthusiasts have for people who create things and do stuff. It's most obvious in the art space, I think. Like, they spent the 2000s just, you deserve to live in poverty because you wanted to make art. Why did you get that underwater basket weaving degree? You should have went into tech. Like, how dare you think that you deserve to be paid for your drawings? Boo, right? But now suddenly there's a tool that can make art, and now they want to get involved. Now they want to make art. Like, art in quotation marks because it's garbage and I don't want to see it. I don't want to see your stupid AI bullshit. But suddenly there's a thing that they can use to make art without any effort, without any time having to like study the classics, to learn, to hone their skills, and now they want to do it. It's just, there's this underlying hostility that AI enthusiasts have for people who, you know, practice and hone their skills and get training to do things. Experts, like medical doctors or carpenters, or those people who can sit in a closet with those little things and make music, those people have spent a lot of time doing a thing until they became great at it. Like, they have trained, they have worked hard, they have practiced to refine their skills so that they can do tasks in an amazing way that the average person cannot. They get respect for that, right? Because they worked hard. And there is a certain group of people who are always pissed about that. Like, what do you mean I can't be a famous theoretical physicist unless I go and learn math? That's not fair. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but like now those people can use a chat box and they think it gives them the same skills, and now they are demanding the same respect. Do you know what I mean? Suddenly, in their imaginations, but not in reality, they have all the same skills that all the people who worked so hard to train so hard to do the things, and all they need to do is just have the right prompts. The skills are at the tip of their fingertips. Oh my goodness. And then, you know, after they've done this and they've presented it to people, people will just be like, well, no, that's not art. I don't want to look at that. No, that's not a physics paper just because, like, technically it looks like a physics paper. In classic crackpot fashion, they are angry. They are angry that you are not respecting them in the way they think they deserve to be respected, because even though they did not attain the skills through the traditional methods, suddenly they have them because they're really good at prompting.
I've been scammed by AI art. I, for $99, purchased something that was advertised to me, purported to be tutorial books by skilled artists that turned out to be AI-generated crap that I could learn nothing from, and was trained on really good artists that I should have been able to give my money to, but they weren't what was advertised to me, and I fell for it. And I'm sick to death of seeing lazy AI-generated crap in all of my content feed. And I hate seeing the gross way AI is being monetized, proliferated, trained, and celebrated by some as an outright replacement for developing a craft. And I hate the way that this challenges people's rights to own and control their own creative output.
Judge Alsop said, if the authors show that there is market harm based on an output of this model, you could bring another case. There is no copyright claim in the production of non-infringing works.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I only have a minute left. It looks to me like you're shifting the burden to the author of the creative work when there's an assertion of fair use here. So Meta or others can virtually steal this creative product of Mr. Baldacci and others, and then he has the responsibility of proving that there's been an economic loss to him as a result of it?
Not at all, Senator.
Ultimately, the thievery, if you want to use that word, of the creative work is for the economic benefit of those who are creating the AI, is it not?
Not necessarily. I think if the...
I'm talking to you about why do we have AI? Why are we interested in AI? Clearly, it's a commercial purpose, is it not?
Oh, entirely. For the AI companies, yes.
For the companies, so that they are ultimately the winners in this approach that you're taking, where you assume we're in the world of new innovation here, and there is a use of someone else's creative work. The burden's on them to prove that they've lost money because of that piracy. But the ultimate winner in this is going to be the AI, because if they escape this responsibility, they can use Mr. Baldacci's product and make money off of it.
Yes, if the training is considered a fair use, the direct benefit would be to the AI companies. I grant that.
This might be a strange connection to draw, but I noticed the way AI artists make art is the same way some penguins make their nests. Penguins need to make their nest out of small stones. They need to be just the right size, shape, and material. Some of the penguins in the herd spend a significant amount of energy finding and gathering these stones for their nest. Other penguins, on the other hand, don't feel like spending the energy to find their own stones. These penguins, seeing as their neighbor has an abundance of stones, steal a few for their own nest. Eventually, after stealing a small amount of stones from everyone else's pile, they have their own nest with a fraction of the effort required. There's a big incentive to not spend the energy to find your own stones. But when everyone decides they don't want to spend the energy to find their stones, the entire herd will find itself with no stones and no nests. They're extremely reliant on those who spend the effort to actually find the right stone, but they couldn't care less about that. AI art is an invasive species, leeching off the resources that would have otherwise gone to the people that deserve it. It fundamentally works by sucking up all the oxygen in the room and outcompeting everything else by sheer volume alone. Nothing truly new or different is allowed in a landscape like this. Everything looks the same. Everything is made in the same way. The landscape is filled only by the now unrecognizable mounds of invasive mold attempting to resemble the originality that used to be there, that used to be something worth celebrating, that used to have a chance to thrive. AI art is theft.
If we have a priority in AI development, and if we are in a competition or arms race with China, winning the AI race by United States companies benefits the United States, in my view.
And Mr. Baldacci should be prepared to pay the price for that, right?
I just want to follow up on this line of questioning, Professor Lee. When you say that it would be to the benefit of the United States, isn't Mr. Baldacci a citizen of the United States?
Entirely. I'm not saying that Mr. Baldacci does not benefit from the copyright. Yes.
So I'm just struggling to understand, when you say that it will benefit, that the mass theft of their works will benefit the United States ultimately, you're saying that the mass theft and potential impoverishment of American citizens ultimately redounds to the good of America?
Not at all, Senator.
I think you're being a little too imprecise, right? What you mean to say is it may benefit American corporations. It may impoverish American citizens, but it will benefit American corporations. I think what you're really saying is that the enrichment of certain multinational corporations that are incidentally based in the United States, taking the works and personal property of American citizens, is a good thing. That's a little bit less clear to me. It just sounds strange to me to say that the United States as a nation is going to benefit from the mass violations of its citizens' rights. Your argument seems to be it's fine to violate those rights in mass if it redounds to the benefit of the nation. I think what you're really saying is to the benefit of certain people in the nation and their immediate interests. I just want to point out that there's a lot of hand-waving going on here. Every time we get down to the nub of the question, can these giant corporations take the copyrighted work of individual citizens, we get distracted with, well, it's for the good of the country, maybe it's not so bad, we have an arms race on, there's an AI czar. I actually think I don't think it's that complicated. I think it's pretty simple. I think in America we have rights. Those rights are what protect us. These rights are being violated. And if we're going to succeed as a nation and uphold our principles as a nation, we better darn well enforce the individual rights on which the nation's founded. I mean, it's just a thought.